Hello Pisces, and welcome to your new moon lunar cycle insight video for the cycle beginning with the new moon in Sagittarius on the 7th of December and culminating as we head into 2019 with the new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn. So this is a much quieter lunar cycle than the ones that we've previously been experiencing. It's a time of integration, of recalibration, of reaping the rewards for the deep inner work that we have been doing with Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde as they move out of their shadows. It's also a very profound month of Neptunian energy. Your sign and your ruler, your modern ruler, are profoundly activated by a square to the new moon, square from the sun, squares from Mercury. As the planets move through Sagittarius, they will activate Neptune, they will activate Mars, who's currently in your sign, and they will activate Chiron, who is finishing up his 7-year stay in Pisces. So there's a deep theme for you of healing old issues, healing old wounds, particularly as we head towards solstice and the planets activate Chiron, that calls you into just releasing, clearing, tying up the lessons of the past 7 years. We know that Chiron's been transiting your sign since around 2011, and earlier this year he dipped into Aries, where he will spend the next 7 years. But a few months ago he moved back into your sign, and he's just lingering on the final degrees now between the Yule season and February. You know, he's going to move back into Aries in February 2019. But this month he's going to have these activations from the sun, from Mercury, and from the new moon as we head into 2019. So this can be a time where you may be looking at old patterns, old addictions, old issues of codependency, old issues of lacking boundaries, of, you know, not feeling energetically strong and in your body, old wounds of insecurity and unworthiness, you know, just coming up to be looked at for the final time as we move through the end of this year. So it's a time of washing clean. You know, we begin this month with Mercury and Venus re-entering Scorpio. So on the 1st of December, Mercury moved back into the final degrees of Scorpio. And on the 2nd of December, Venus moved back into the early degrees of Scorpio. So they are going over the ground that they were first going over in October this year. So this is a time when things can reach culmination and completion. All of the work that we've been collectively doing, diving into the deep waters, clearing our hearts, purifying our minds, can start to bring results. And for you, these planets are moving through your 9th house in your fellow water sign. So this can be a time of deep intuitive knowing. It can be a time when you can start to see new belief systems. You know, Mercury and Venus retrograding around this 9th house for you has been really calling you to review your spiritual connection, review your spiritual pathway, to review those belief systems which may keep you stuck in old dogma. The 9th house is the house that's ruled by Sagittarius. So for you, this energy of rewiring your beliefs and expanding your sight so that you can step into this highest version of yourself has been very prevalent. And it's accompanied by the new moon and and Jupiter, obviously the Sun, Mercury coming back on the 12th of December as well in your 10th house. So these two houses are at the top of the birth chart. We have the house of vision, of belief systems, of spiritual connection, and we have the house of purpose, of reputation and career. So the deep inner work, the belief systems that you've been transforming are creating the way for new manifestations in your career, in your public persona. Perhaps you've been having to weed out fears of really being seen in a more authoritarian capacity. You know, perhaps some of you have been thinking about putting your spiritual offerings or creations more out into the world since Jupiter moved into that house on the in November last month. Perhaps you've been thinking more about allowing your truth to be shared. You know, some of you may have been stepping up into more prolific roles, or roles connected with teaching and serving, particularly those connected with teaching and serving spiritual truth. So this new moon can call you into seeding that vision, anchoring all of those transformations you've gone through on an emotional and mental level, so that they can bear fruit as the wheel of the year turns, as we spin through the cycles and seasons. We set these intentions and then they can be harvested as the lunar cycle completes, and particularly as we head up to the Sagittarius full moon next year, which always happens during Gemini season, so May, June next year. And it's a very interesting time because, like I say, these Sagittarian energies are squaring Chiron, Mars, Neptune in your sign. So it's really important that we think about how we can make these dreams a reality, how we can make them tangible, how we can make them viable so that we can really live our purpose in the world. So we may have the ideas, the inspiration, perhaps a new pathway is opening up in front of us, but we have to be really willing to put the work, to put the effort in. We've got Saturn going through the 11th house with Pluto still, who's going to be joined by the Sun on the 21st of December as we head into the solstice, the winter solstice for us here in the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice for you guys in the southern hemisphere. Big shift of energy as the Sun enters Capricorn and illuminates the part of our chart that has being, is being so continually tested by Saturn, by Pluto, and since last month, the South Node as well. So it's really looking at how we are taking action to bring these desires into being, and, looking at how they're serving the rest of the global community. The 11th house, which will be activated after solstice, is the house where our individual purpose intertwines with the collective evolution of humanity. So in the 10th house where Jupiter is, we have these, we start to think about our purpose, we start to bring our purpose into being. Then as we move into the 11th house, we start to think, is this purpose serving the collective evolution as well? So these are things to think about. We might also find that Saturn moving through this house, as I've said before in previous videos, is making us feel a little bit isolated, making us feel a little bit disconnected from the circles and friendships and groups online and in person that used to feel right for us. And if we've still been hanging on, if we're still kind of lingering around in spaces, in groups, we're going to circles, or we're taking part in things that no longer resonate with us, then the Sun's going to come through and say, I think this is time to let this go, particularly with the eclipse coming up here as well in early January. So we're having this theme, of looking at how we interact with the rest of the world. And Chiron here in the final degrees of your sign is saying, okay, if you're going to put yourself out there, if you're going to bring these big dreams into being, you're going to have good boundaries. You're going to have to be very solid in yourself. You are the most compassionate sign, Pisces. You feel everything from everybody, and that is, you know, one of the beautiful gifts of being born under the sign of the fishes. But we are so porous that we can get very easily drained or burnt out if we don't, you know, stay in our own sovereignty. So we're learning, you know, finishing up these lessons. So that energy may seem prevalent this month as well, as you're kind of tested. And also the Neptunian energies, the heightened Neptunian energies in your sign can also awaken your predisposition to escape reality through addictive behaviours and excess as well. So we're in the festive season, and this is the time of year that we generally go a bit overboard anyway. But for you in particular, it's important to look at when you're drawn back into those addictive patterns, whether it's, you know, something serious like alcohol or drugs, or whether it's sugar or overspending, you know, wasting time watching Netflix. You know, if we're doing that, what are we trying to avoid? What are we trying to run from by burying our head in the sand and numbing ourselves with these toxic behaviors, Pisces? So that's something else to bear in mind this month. The full moon, which occurs the day after solstice on the 22nd of December, will take place in your 5th house. And this is where the North Node is currently transiting. We talked about his shift into the 5th house in the last Lunar Cycle video as well, in November's videos. And this is the house of individual, unique creativity. So we have this kind of polarity going on between the 11th and 5th house that's going to be with us for the next 18 months. So again, it's how are my unique individual talents serving the rest of humanity? Or how is on the flip side, how is the programming of the collective stopping me from fully expressing my unique self and creating things in the way that I want to create them over the next 18-month period? So those are things that can be illuminated and highlighted for you. And, you know, again, this is a watery lunation, the sign of Cancer, another water sign. So there is this undercurrent of emotion, of release, of sensitivity, of psychic receptivity that flows through this month for you as well, Pisces. So we step into the new year with Mars moving into Aries. He's going to conjunct Chiron in the final degrees of Pisces, and he's going to come into Aries. So this is a really exciting start to the year. As I've been saying in all of the previous videos, that, you know, Mars he's been moving through your sign, which is quite nice for you. It can give you a bit of an extra boost of energy. But before that, he was retrograding in Aquarius in your 12th house. So there's been this kind of lack of forward movement collectively. So Mars's movement into Aries at the beginning of the new year initiates this forward movement, this rush of energy. You know, we start to feel our enthusiasm, our motivation coming back, particularly with the sun in, you know, steady Capricorn as well. So this shift will take place in your 2nd house, Pisces. So this can get you really fired up around finances and resources. You know, it's going to be trining Jupiter in the 10th house. So it's like, okay, how can I utilize the blessings that Jupiter is and the opportunities that Jupiter is bringing me in my career? How can I optimize those to create a secure financial base for myself as well? You know, how can I claim my power, claim my worth, to know that I deserve to receive? And we will talk a little bit more about that next month as those energies come into being. And of course, we finish this lunar cycle with that eclipse in Capricorn, which is going to be working with those 11th house energies that I've already mentioned. So we're going to close this video with a tarot card. As I'm making these videos, there is Mercury and Venus still in Scorpio. So we're in these kind of dark waters, prophecy, oracling, which comes so naturally to you as well, Pisces. So I'm going to pick a card for you to culminate this reading. And these are the Glastonbury Tarot by Lisa Tenzin-Dolmer. It's really interesting. So this card kind of amplifies the message that I've been speaking to throughout this video, and the card is the Seven of Swords, boundaries. So this can be, in traditional tarot, the depiction of this card is a little bit more sinister. We see a man kind of running away with a bag of swords that he's stolen. It can indicate deception or truths that have yet to be revealed. So there is an element of that, and that is an undercurrent of this month, as well as, you know, Mercury does move back through Scorpio. He is in this trine with Chiron and the North Node. So there are truths, you know, sometimes uncomfortable truths being revealed at the beginning of this month as well. But on a deep level, this card is all about securing your boundaries, you know, placing limits on the time and energy that you are willing to give out, not allowing people to almost get their energetic hooks into you and drain that vital life force that you need to be utilizing in service to your own path and your own dreams at this time, Pisces. You know, Jupiter only comes through your 10th house once every 12 years. So this is the time for you to step forward, to step ahead. So don't let the fear of perhaps even being too sensitive to deal with the world, deal with reality, which can sometimes be the shadow of Pisces, stop you from doing that. You are strong enough. You can say no. You can become the authority of your own life. So just affirm that to yourself every time that you feel yourself slipping back into old patterns, that you are the authority. You make the choices. You decide what substances you put in your body. You decide how you use your time and energy and resources. So thank you so much for listening to me, Pisces. I am wishing you a very, very beautiful and blissful Yuletide season. If you wish to connect with me further, you can check the links at the bottom of that I posted below this video.